My mother used to tell me, God knows the age of every tree and the color of every flower. And he knows just how wide your shoulders are. And he'll never give you anything to carry that's bigger than you can handle.
Then maybe that's what this whole place is about. Maybe that's what you have to do to get by in a place like this.
And what's that?
Grow bigger shoulders.
Bo?
Yeah?
She remembered my name.
Our names.
I think I'm in love.
She's married.
Yeah, we can work something out.
What, are you afraid I won't come back, Shakan?
No, afraid you will.
So, how long you figure they've been married?
Unknown enemies attack Babylon 5's weakened defenses.
What if the station falls?
Watch an all-new Babylon 5 next Wednesday night at 10, exclusively on TNT.
You have transmissions holding.
Patch incoming signal. Full audio and video decode.
Purple files accessed.
What you are about to see has never been shown to anyone outside the Grey Council.
Hello, everyone out there in podcast land. Welcome to Gray 17, a Babylon 5 podcast, a part of the Front Row Network and NPR Illinois Community Voices. We're a group of newbies watching Babylon 5 for the very first time, and a group of first ones who are watching Babylon 5 for the umpteenth time. And we are here today to discuss Season 5, Episode 4, A View from the Gallery, or as I joked last week, Star Trek Lower Decks. That's what it is. I'm Scott, and with me is...
Blake.
Mike.
Justin.
Nicole.
Monica.
And Kevin.
And Jessi's out doing adult stuff. Oh, I should probably, let me say, I shouldn't say adult stuff. That sounds weird. She's doing her job.
She's working the street.
Grown up stuff.
Jessi, when you listen to this episode, sorry.
He's not sorry.
No, you're not.
And I'm Jessi.
She's going to punch you for that.
Fucking Jessi.
You got to have the
Fucking
aggressiveness.
Jessi.
Fucking Jessi. Okay. So she'll be back when she's done doing what she's doing that I'm not allowed to say publicly. Okay.
That doesn't sound any better.
No.
Just keep putting your foot in your mouth.
When you don't show up, this is what happens to you.
You're just shoveling back further down.
Okay.
Come on out.
Well, before we get started talking about A View from the Gallery, a reminder to click all the links down below. We have our social media accounts. We have Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. On Facebook, you can meet a lot of the newbies. On Twitter, you can talk to the oldbies. And then also on Instagram, you can see pictures. And we do have our Discord that is open to all of our Patreon members. So if you want to get access to that Discord, which includes a general chat as well as a spoiler chat, you can join our Patreon at any level and get access to that. And a special thanks to our producers who are our Grey Council members who provide the most support each and every month to our Patreon, which, by the way, I paid a shit ton in taxes on the Patreon. Not gonna lie. That wasn't for the show. Just saying.
You could leave it in. It's the most relatable thing you've said.
Remember to like, subscribe, follow. As I mentioned the past few weeks, the YouTube algorithm is kicking our ass. So if you can go over to YouTube and get us a subscribe and click that notify bell, that would really help us. And we do a premiere for every one of these episodes Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Central on YouTube. So if you click that notify button, you'll know when we do the premiere. And usually some of us are in the chat, chatting along with the episode if you want to add some commentary. I know Nicole wants to say hello to several of those chat members today.
Most of them are very cool, except for one.
Yeah, and all of them are now thinking, am I the one? Am I the one?
I guess you'll have to show up Wednesday to find out.
Nicole will tell you. And finally, if
Not
you
the
can,
one.
not the one,
And,
not the one.
But you, yes, you that's thinking it. Yeah, you're the asshole.
We know who you are, Jim. And
Also-
somebody named Jim is gonna freak the fuck out. It's gonna be great.
Also, earlier Scott said doo-doo.
Yes, we do.
Everybody.
We do. And while you're doo-dooing, please leave a review on Apple, Audible, or Spotify. Apple does the best for us in terms of reach. And we got a new one in, guys, that is a 5-star. And this one comes from Doug C. Fantastic and frustrating at the same time. Doug, I agree. And Doug says, but take 5 anyways because fuck internet trolls. Thanks, Doug. We appreciate it.
What specifically is frustrating?
He's thinking to himself, you.
I mean, if it is me, that's fine. It won't be the first time.
Doug, if you want to tell us who frustrates you the most, go ahead and join us at 10 a.m. Central on Wednesday and let us know. Okay, guys, we're going to go ahead and dive in to A View from the Gallery, and I do believe Blake has a synopsis for us.
I do. As the station defend itself against an attack from aliens, we get to go Babylon 5 lower decks and follow around 2 maintenance workers. And we learned something this episode. We learned what makes Centauri hair stand up. Apparently, it's the crappy taste of spoo.
I always think of spoo as tofu, and I would agree. It tastes like shit. Let's go ahead. Nicole's giving me a really big, dirty face, like, ooh, ooh.
Yuck.
Never tried it.
Bitter beer face. Let's go ahead and talk to our newbies first about their first impressions on this episode, and we'll go to Justin first. First impressions.
Yeah, I've got to be honest. I actually really enjoyed this one.
I was about ready to say, of all the people, I thought you would like this episode.
Yeah, actually, it's Mack and Bo were giving me really good Abbott and Costello vibes, and I was really down for it. The side story with the alien invasion was fine. I don't really have any serious objections to it. We did get to finally see more of Lockley, and you know, she's not bad, but she's definitely not up on Ivanova level yet, in my opinion. But overall, I give it a solid B.
Nicole, first impressions.
Well, I don't know shit about Star Trek, but I can tell you I really like this episode. I didn't expect to get emotional, but by the end of the episode, I was tearing up. I don't know if that's just because I don't feel well, but I got emotional a couple times in this episode. It was really good. I don't know. There was just so many touching moments, but then there was so many funny moments. Those guys were unbothered. They were hilarious. Like Abbott Costello, that was a great comparison, but I would totally watch a Bo and Mac buddy cop movie any day. Like, they were fucking awesome. It was cool to see like all the different conversations. They just ended up being in all the right places at all the wrong times. So they like really got a backseat to everything. I just really, really enjoyed this episode.
And Emily.
I watched. No, it wasn't that bad. The side characters were actually pretty entertaining. I like them more than Sheridan, which honestly doesn't take much at this point. But I really liked Jakar's truth bomb on Londo, where like, you never grew up, you just got old. And he keeps doing that to Londo, and honestly, I love it. It's very enjoyable. So it was minimal Sheridan episode, so that was nice.
Your approval is based on how much Sheridan finds its way into its script. Is that what you're telling me there?
Well, he's just getting on my nerves a lot lately. So yeah.
Lately, as in the past year?
Like the past 3 seasons.
Yeah, lately. Let's go to our first ones who have watched every single episode, including this one. And let's shake it up a little. Let's go to Blake first.
So I actually like this episode also. I wouldn't say it's one of the best in the series by any means, but I enjoy it. It's a fun episode for me. And part of the reason is I do like Star Trek Lower Decks. I also like the TNG episode that this kind of mirrors for me, that the name is escaping me off the top of my head.
Yeah, but the Ensign episode.
Yeah.
Lower Decks.
It was called Lower Decks.
Oh, was it? I thought it was something different, but okay.
Nope.
I had in my head that it was something different, but yeah, so Lower Decks. I liked that take on it, but I also like in this, I think it's an example of, with JMS, one, it's got Harlan Ellison as a co-writer in it because he had part of the story snippet that went into it, and I like Harlan Ellison. But also it's another one of those episodes where he flips the script a little bit and does it where we get to see these characters from different perspectives. He's done it before with some of the ISN shows. He's had these different points. The episode that we all loved last season, that was the fill-in season finale, where you get to go through time and see in the future. You get to see these characters that we've been watching from these different perspectives that aren't the normal episodes. And I like the way he throws those in every so often with the writing. So I appreciate that. And I enjoy following this episode, particularly the interactions with Bo and Mac as they get together. And there is, I mean, and I'm sure we're going to talk about it at some point, there is a little bit of a moment of what some would consider JMS's penchant for dick writing with a certain moment in here. there's multiple versions, and JMS himself has even talked about that and says that it's not what people think. It was more directed towards other things.
Bullshit.
I'm sure we will get into it.
Yes, we will.
As you just heard, with some bullshit called.
Mike, what do you got?
Yeah, I really like this episode, kind of unsurprisingly. I'm a huge fan of Star Trek Lower Decks. I love that perspective of getting to explore a show and a universe that I am close to, but from a different perspective, an unusual perspective. And so, Lower Decks is incredible, and I think I'm a big fan of Stargate. There have been episodes of Stargate. I believe one episode was called like The Other Guys or something like that, that followed an alternate team of, scientists or gate explorers. I forget which, but shit, might have been two different episodes. Anyway, I just really like it. And I think it gives you a way to see things from a different lens and explore characters from a different perspective. Really enjoyed it. Solid overall. Very entertaining despite the many, many plot holes.
Kevin, first impressions.
Yeah, the plot holes are pretty glaring. I also really thought the costume and creature design was really bad for the alien race. I don't know what was going on with those red helmets, but wow. Yeah,
You mean those aren't the same red helmets from the Imperial Guard or with First Order Guard from the Last Jedi?
No,
I thought it was like a Flash
episode.
Gordon thing.
Yeah, it gave me Flash Gordon vibes for sure, Mike. That's kind of what I was thinking about. And as Blake alluded to, the knock on Claudia Christian, the line which we'll talk about is extremely aggravating to me. I don't know, some of the banter between the two of them, Bo and Mac, kind of fell a little flat for me, but I really like the character development in this episode. I thought the stuff with Franklin was really good. I thought the stuff with Jakar and Londo was good. I continue to not be offended by the Delenn and Sheridan stuff, particularly in this episode. I thought it was well done, but overall, I'm fairly lukewarm on this episode, but honestly, I should probably grade it a little easier given how good some of those character moments are in this.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat I was with season 1. I keep forgetting that there's some pretty darn good stuff here in season 5. I love Bo and Mac, and I threw out on Twitter thanking Straczynski for giving us some unsung heroes, and one of the responses came from B5 Raven, who said, "We are all Bo and Mac," and I think I agree with B5 Raven on that one. I love the different views, not only of just having Bo and Mac be our kind of narrative throughout this, but also we get to see parts of the ship we usually didn't get to see. Like there's little portholes in Brown Sector. Don't know why. Doesn't make much sense, but they're portholes. So there we go. We're like a little ship. It's just a fun episode. I enjoy all the Londo and Jakar stuff as well. And we get to see more of Lockley, which I'm actually kind of sad that Jessi can't be here this week. For one, to Kevin's point, this is one of the first weeks where we don't see Delenn and Sheridan post-coitus, but we do get to see Lockley in bed, which I'm okay with. But I think we're starting to see that Lockley is a character, and I wonder what Jessi feels about that. So we'll have to ask her when she gets back. But let's go ahead and dive into the episode proper, and let's see where we want to go with that. Nicole, what do you got?
I would like to start, and this might seem weird or odd, but it won't take very long. I'd like to start with the Dr. Franklin stuff we learned about why he became a doctor. That was probably one of my favorite pieces of the entire episode, was when Bo was like, why bother if they're coming here to kill us? Why are you going to help them? And when he told the story about his dad and those base doctors keeping him alive and whatever, and that's when he knew he wanted to become a doctor. I feel like he kind of turned Bo's opinion around a little bit and just explained to him like the path of him, his dad wanted him to go into the military, but it was just really interesting to learn that backstory, because I don't know if we've ever heard about Franklin's family before or any of his real background.
We met his dad in an episode, but we didn't hear his dad's background. We just knew his dad was military and Franklin was not.
Okay. Yeah. So, but it was nice to learn a little bit about why he became a doctor and why he's so passionate. And, the thing about Franklin, as flawed as he may have been here and there, ultimately he is a doctor and he wants to help and save people, and I think that it was really cool to kind of hear that lore a little bit and hear about his dad, and that moment with him and Bo, I just thought that was really cool. It was probably one of my favorite parts of the entire show.
Yeah, Nicole, I would agree with you on that. The one thing I would add is, and we see other characters do it down the line, but if I remember right, Franklin's the first one who actually shows respect for these guys. He pats him on the back. He says, "I got a problem. You can fix it."
Yep.
And then he lets Bo talk, and he actually answers his questions. A lot of times with these lower deck workers, for lack of a better term, people just ignore them, pretend they're not even there. And I think Franklin really showed something there where he gave Bo the time of day. Justin, what do you got?
Well, 100% agree with Nicole. And to kind of illustrate your point, Scott, that's a common theme throughout this episode, where like they were shocked about how some of the people actually talked to them and, Delenn remembered my name and all of that stuff. So, but the one thing I actually caught me more than the medbay scene was the scene towards the end where they're talking about how they get to make all the shots and get all the glory and we have to clean up the mess. And then they see Franklin standing there, and that scene we've seen it a few other times, like with the Grunt episode, about just the human cost, the human toll that this can sometimes take, along with the scene when they were sitting in the observatory and talking about what the different flashes of light mean about who's getting killed and stuff like that. So, I mean, but going back to Franklin's story, you never really hear that get that much deep into his background. So that was always kind of cool to listen to.
Nicole?
I think that is what got me a little emotional about this episode. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not feeling so great today, so that could be it. But just like Franklin giving them the time of the day and treating them like people, and that kind of like setting it off for the rest of the episode. And it kind of started with Franklin, but ended with Franklin, when they walked past him and all the bodies and stuff. That was not lost on me. That was very impactful. And that was just so damn. You think it's going to be kind of a feel good, and then all of a sudden, that's what it ends with. And I was like, oh shit. I would also like to comment about creepy Byron.
I definitely want to talk about
Yeah. So when they walked into the telepath layer, they were like, oh shit, where did we end up? Their reactions were pretty funny. Like you can tell they were uncomfortable and they were kind of creeped out. They were just being cryptic, and they always are. As that scene went on with the guy who came with the gun and they just kind of like looked at him and he walked away, like that was crazy. And I think that was the moment Mack and Bo were like, we need to get the hell out of here. And then when Bo said, I wish I was out there with them, and Byron's like, oh, you do? And I was like, oh no, what's Byron going to do? Like, I thought it was going to be a bad thing. And then Byron showed him what it would be like out there. And you can tell that Bo was, wow, like he liked that. Like it was just unexpected to me. And that's something that he'll have with him as like a memory. So I thought that was kind of cool, even though, man, it was so awkward and creepy when they first walked in there.
Justin?
I, for one, appreciated that scene because of how dark it was, and not from a philosophical standpoint, but from a lighting standpoint. And I don't know if that had anything to do with the station being under attack or anything like that, but when they kept showing kind of the 1930s horror look on each of like the telepaths' faces, how the shadows kind of fell across them and stuff like that. So you kind of get a view of, from kind of Mack and Bo's perspective, oh, we've heard about these telepaths before, and they seem to be kind of frightened of them. And the fact that they were showing each of their faces where they're not amused or interested really in anything that they're saying, and they're actually kind of giving them dirty looks right back. So I just thought from a cinematic aspect, it was actually kind of an interesting scene for me. But one thing that kind of took me with this is like Nicole talked about, Byron kind of temporarily placing Bo in a Star Fury and just kind of showing what it was like to be a pilot. You can tell from that scene that Bo's somebody who aspires for more. Max seems to be somebody who is not comfortable in his life, but just accepts it. I don't think Bo accepts it as much. So like the fact that he got to live momentarily as a Star Fury pilot, I think it seemed to kind of jog something in him that I hope maybe we get to see again, because there's one of my favorite episodes of Battlestar Galactica where the whole episode is dealing with everybody kind of being stuck in the same place, and it almost is developing like a caste system within the fleet. And I can kind of get a feeling maybe that's starting to happen on Babylon 5 a little bit, to where my hope is that we get to see kind of a little bit more of that kind of effect. And, maybe this will give Bo the opportunity to kind of move up to something better in life.
Kevin?
It's interesting to me, this scene, because, you really get a perspective on Byron in particular that you really haven't gotten a glimpse of before. That it seems like he's not bound by the same rules as Psychor with certain things, and he was just, without asking permission, without a second thought, is kind of like excited about giving Bo perspective on the Star Fury pilots and just beaming that into his brain without really asking for permission or whether he thought it was going to be good. Now, it didn't seem to do Bo any harm, but I was kind of struck by, that's almost a violent act to force that on somebody, to me, and I thought that was at least instructive about part of who Byron is.
I kind of disagree. I don't like disagreeing with you, Kevin, but I kind of am in this standpoint, because he asked Byron several times, is this something you really want? Are you sure this is what you want? And so then when he finally said, yes, this is what I really want, I would really love to do this, that's when he did it. So I didn't view it as a violent act at all, because he did give him several opportunities to say, no, okay, no, I'm good. And he said, yes. Even when Mac tried to say, hey, buddy, let's just go, he's like, no, I really want this.
That is true, but also I'm not sure that it was entirely clear to Mac what he was signing up for.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's a point.
You can ask that question, is that really what you want? And it seems like he was trying to elicit out of him whether it was just a gung-ho jingoistic kind of, I want to do this, and Byron's trying to sort that out. But that's hugely different from beaming something into his brain and not really telling him that's what he was about to do.
Your point is seen.
Taken, but not well taken. I got
yes.
or was it less beaming something into his brain, and did he actually put Mac into the brain of a pilot in real time?
Yeah, that's what I'm.
That's how I read it.
I'm 100% sure that's what he did, because there's no other way to do it. He's a telepath.
Yeah,
he's not He's not a magician.
He's like, here you go, Mac. Have some PTSD.
So you violated two people.
Byron's rules are different than other people's rules. He didn't violate anyone if you don't think he did.
Yes, he did.
Emily?
Yeah, I'm still not sure what to think about Byron, because his voice isn't aggressive. So it's not like anything he says sounds mean or cruel or anything like that, but there's something about him that just makes me very uneasy. Am I alone in that? Because
no, I'll second
there are
that.
people where their voice, they can say really hateful things, but the tone and sound of the voice doesn't sound like it, so people often miss it.
Yeah, I can't tell if he's unbelievably chill or a violent psychopath.
Exactly. Is it all just hiding underneath the surface, ready to be unleashed?
No, Emily, you're not alone, because I definitely do not have any sort of trust for Byron yet either. So,
and do we know if these were telepaths that had been guinea pigs for Psychor to enhance their abilities?
We just know they're refugees, because Byron has said that they've tried to find multiple places to live, and they haven't found a place yet that would take them in.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of wiggle room in the story about how these telepaths aren't members of Psychor, basically.
There's something about his ability and having Bo feel like he's one of the fighter pilots that just seemed higher level skill. So it made me wonder if he had been a guinea pig.
Well, that's kind of one of my problems here. And I have a bit of an issue with where they're taking telepaths in this season. It feels a little bit like they've jumped the shark, and it's, hey, we need something to do, so just have the telepath do this. It was one thing when they're early on in the series and they're monitoring business deals basically as human lie detectors, or can do mind scans and pick up people's thoughts, that type of stuff. But, now when they're sitting there and it's not even touch, it's just astral projection of, hey, we're going to put you in someone's mind in a fighter pilot outside the station as they're doing shit.
Yeah.
And let you see through it gets to be a little bit almost jump the shark for me with the telepaths, especially in this rogue group. You've got the one that was projecting flowers to people that died at the end of the first episode in season 5. You've got all of this stuff with it where I don't like it personally. I don't like the direction that this particular group of telepaths is going. I think there's a much stronger story here if they would tighten it up.
Yeah, it seems like there's a big difference between just beaming in one image of flowers into someone's head and actually allowing someone to live a moment in their life from
Mm-hmm.
way far away out of sight, which a lot of what they did in this episode breaks the already established rules for telepaths, which I'm sure is what you're getting at, Blake. And I
Yeah.
agree with you.
Well, and then they're sitting there getting touchy-feely with the dead alien's helmet to figure out what his hopes and dreams. And it's like, oh, good Lord. You know, you're basically sitting there fondling the dead guy's helmet, trying to talk about how in tune you are with his emotions and hopes and desires. And yeah, it annoyed the shit out of me.
Agree. There's a huge jump in the sudden capabilities of, and I won't even say telepaths, it's Byron specifically that seems to have all of the really super magic powers, which probably leads to Emily's question of, was he some kind of Jason Ironheart-esque test subject? Is he this close to becoming? Which, I will say, kind of back to the other point about his tone of voice, it's like, this is what I actually meant to say before. Is he super chill? Is he a psychopath? Or is he, in fact, so close to godlike power that he is talking to Mac not as a fellow human, but as, you know, somebody who clearly thinks he's better than Mac? Is he talking to a bug?
Justin?
Yeah, I mean, you're right, Mike. This guy gave me total Magneto vibes.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
During this episode, where talking about how much we've been oppressed and all this stuff for so long, and but what was I going to say before that thought popped into my head? About the touching the helmet thing. So I actually thought it was kind of interesting that they were able to, you know, glean information about these aliens from touching this guy's helmet. Wouldn't that be information that they would want to pass along? To me, I mean, it just kind of was like, well, why didn't they go, hey, we learned some stuff about these guys. Here's this information.
They don't care.
Kind of like, no, oh, yeah. Yeah,
I kind of thought it was what Ray Stantz was doing in Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. He's just, you know, got all the weird ass.
Don't besmirch that movie. It's a good movie.
They did it better.
I've not seen it.
I mean, they should care because they're on the station that the aliens are trying to blow up. But
yeah, but they don't. I mean, legitimately, they just don't.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem that way.
Byron has never shown any, and his people have shown little interest because they don't speak, but he has shown no interest in being involved. The only reason why he offered to do jobs was to make sure they had a place to stay. And oh, by the way, Sheridan and Lockley stuck him in Brown sector, which again, we get told this week is the plumbing section. They're in the shitter, literally. So why do they care?
But again, there's a big difference between not caring to be involved in someone else's politics and not caring that the piece of metal you're standing on is about to go boom.
But what did they gather from the helmet that would have strategically helped the fight?
I don't know. I mean,
that the guy wanted to have a puppy when he got done with the fight?
Theoretically, there could have been some military relevant information in there, but yeah, I mean, I have no clue.
Yeah.
I just think they could have possibly gathered information because it seemed like that they never have seen this alien race before.
For one, I thought we established really early in the series that human telepaths trying to read an alien's mind is pretty traumatic and difficult to do. Wasn't that a thing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Lita called out.
So
and I think
that.
Talia too.
So there's that. And secondly, I guess more back on the subject, is if we've just established a minute ago that Byron did in fact hijack the body of a Starfighter or a Starfury pilot and put Mac into it, in control of it, that he could theoretically do that to some aliens.
Everything you guys are saying are valid points. I just don't think it's the point of the conversation. I mean,
totally. I mean, this episode is plot hole city, but
what we're seeing here is, I think, a good scene that gives you a better idea of who Byron and his people are. They're hippies, plain and simple. They're hippy dippy. And I know Blake doesn't like that. I don't really either, but that's what they are. And the whole idea that Byron has more powers than most telepaths, I don't see that either. I just think that we're seeing somebody who isn't holding themselves back. We've seen that other telepaths. Remember the scene where they got together and they turned Bester away? Telepaths have a lot more powers and a lot more abilities than we know, because most of them have been told by Psychord not to do it unless no one's looking. These guys don't care. They have no inhibition. They don't answer to anybody. And like I said earlier, I mean, I think the best example was an ant. They don't care. They think they're better. And right now, they see this as their ability to just hang out and try to survive. But I don't see this as any new powers. I think this is something that could easily have been done by many P5 and above telepaths. It's just Byron doesn't care, so he has no inhibitions. Kevin, we got
one of the things I want to talk about. So, we've seen, a few episodes now with Byron, and the one thing that I want to stress is I really like how he's portrayed by Robin Atkin Downes. He's whether you've got trouble with Byron at any point, he's portraying how he's written and doing it, in my opinion, a really good job, because of his iciness that we were talking about. He just does not seem to get particularly animated about hardly anything, but he's doing that in such a way that it's hard to know at this point in time who Byron exactly is, and it gives some mystery to the character, and I really like how he's portrayed.
What else you guys got?
Yeah, I mean, all things considered, if you do put aside whatever you want to call plot holes or power scaling issues or whatever, take away all the technical stuff that nerds can get hung up on, I do overall like the scene. I thought it was really fun to watch these kind of two ordinary guys stumble into this sudden interaction with telepaths, and that kind of holy shit moment that I think it was Nicole mentioned earlier. And then, kind of how those guys did their interaction, and in the fact that it gave this really interesting high concept character moment to Mac. I think that was really kind of special. It's the kind of thing that you only get in an episode like this.
So the way that the season 4 ending and into the pickup by TNT and going into season 5, the way that all happened, everything got delayed, and so the usual time that JMS would have to writing episodes was scrunched down infinitely, and he was doing conventions now by this time too, so he wrote this episode in like 11 or 12 hours from the account. And I think, to Mike's point, the plot holes that this has, I think a lot of that could be explained away by the fact that he was writing almost an entire season. In fact, there's only one episode this season he doesn't write by himself, which had never been done before, and to my knowledge, never since, which I think we've talked about before. I know Scott has. And the fact that he's writing in hotels, he's writing in taxis, he's writing on planes, he's writing in the back of a truck if he has to. So there are going to be some choppy elements here and there, and I think the plot holes that Mike talks about is probably a direct result of that. That being said, it is a almost superhuman feat to be able to do an entire season of a show like this in a scrunched timetable.
See, and that's the crazy thing is going into this season, I completely agreed with you on all of that, because I've even joked about the maid lost the damn scripts, or the notes, but I'm not seeing any choppiness yet. I'm not. And the plot holes that we're talking about, I honest to God don't see any plot holes yet either. I get we can talk about power scaling and all that, but to me personally, I don't see that as a plot hole. I see that again as a character who's opening it up and being able to do more than most who hold themselves back. The alien thing, yeah, they could have been developed more, but it's not the first time in sci-fi that a nomadic alien race comes to pick on you. They do look goofy, but I mean, I'm not seeing the choppiness yet.
Well, and by and large, Scott, I think you just kind of hit out too. Babylon 5 has largely not done the Alien of the Week format. And this is one of the handful of episodes where it actually did kind of the Alien of the Week mystery.
What's the last one? That Probe a long time ago, which was Sheridan's second episode or whatever.
The last one. Before that, you had the Children of the Egg thing. That was kind of a walk-on one-time race. But yeah, really, this series has not done a lot of the Alien of the Week. So I can hand them doing it like this once in a while.
And Blake, to your point, you mentioned earlier, this was a Harlan Ellison idea. So JMS just doesn't do Alien of the Weeks unless somebody throws an idea at him. And that's why Harlan gets credit on this as well as JMS, although JMS did write it. It was Harlan's idea. Which, by the way, JMS just released 2 volumes of Harlan Ellison's works. So if you're a Harlan Ellison fan, now's the time to jump back in. And JMS is the president of Harlan Ellison's foundation, was a good friend of his until the end. So if you're a Harlan Ellison fan, now's the time to check out that stuff. Justin.
Well, if nobody else has anything to say about telepaths, I am ready to talk about our two unsung heroes of this episode, Mack and Bo.
The mighty Mack and Bo.
The mighty Mack and Bo. I thoroughly enjoyed following those characters around the station, and they illustrate to me perfectly. If you ever work in a big, massive office building, if you ever really want to know what's going on, talk to the guy who delivers the mail or talk to the custodians, because they are people who are largely ignored like that, hear all and say all, or see all, and you see that all the time throughout this entire episode, where they see Lockley going off on somebody, they see Jakar and Londo's interactions, they see pretty much everything that's going on. They are almost a direct witness to, and then you kind of see how rumors kind of start floating around the station like that, and they all, you have nothing to talk about, so let's talk about the current scuttlebutt. Well, what's going on with Sheridan? And, what do you think about him? And what do you think about this person and that person? And it's just kind of really interesting to see kind of how this still happens all throughout our world. Is my dad told me a long time ago, if you ever want to have a really good experience at work, make friends with the people who wipe your floors. Those two were just, like I mentioned, Abbott and Costello earlier, like that's the first thing from that very first interaction in the hallway, where they're sitting there looking at this machine. They're like, what does this machine even do? Do you even know? No, it just it doesn't clean the floor. Look, it doesn't do anything. Well, maybe it probes the metal, and it's like, well, we have to use this machine every day, and we have no idea what it's for, but we're told to use it, so we use it. And then arguing back and forth about Spoo and salami and the price of salami at 10 credits an ounce, and then by the time the end of the episode, it's 15 credits an ounce, and just the interaction between those two characters, I especially loved, especially with Jakar and Londo's scene of, once they have their little back and forth and then they leave, Mac is like, well, how long do you think those two been married and everything like that? So it was just really good to watch those.
Nicole.
Well, Justin said some of the stuff that I was going to say, so I won't repeat it, but
sorry.
That's okay. But yeah, some of the stuff that I really just loved about these guys is that like they found themselves in all of these opportune spots to hear all the tea, right? First of all, I also love the salami and Spoo debate when he's like, I know a guy. And he kept saying, I know a guy throughout the whole episode. I'm like, was he like my long lost Italian brethren? I love this guy, I was just cracking up because he's like, I know a guy. I'm like, it just made me laugh. And then when Mac was saying that the White Stars look like unplucked chickens, I just started laughing. Now that's all I see is an unplucked chicken. But then he also called them angels at the same time. So that was really fun. And then just like seeing their like dynamic throughout the episode and how people interacted with them, and Sheridan asks them to bring Delenn to the life pod, and she basically talks them out of it and like charms them. I was just dying. I was like, okay. And then when she said hi to them at the end and he's like, I think I'm in love. He's like, she's married. He's like, we could work something out. Like, I just was dying. Like they had so many funny like lines and interactions and like discussions between each other. And then they're like, let's go to break. They're like trying to find ways to go to lunch and take a break. Like it just was so like realistic too. You know what I mean? Especially if you have to do like a shit job at work and you're like, oh, I don't want to go clean the floor. Let's take a break. You know what I mean? But I really, really enjoyed them. I really enjoyed some of the stuff they said. And I really thought it was kind of cute at the end about how Mac had that new confidence. And he was like, Captain Lockley. And he like yells at her and she's like, yes. He's like, you're all right. And she's like, thank you. And I don't think he would have done that before if he didn't have all those interactions and get recognized by Delenn. And like, it was just kind of cool to see like the progression through the episode. And at the end, they're like, oh, these are our homies now, like at least that's kind of what I took from it. I mean, obviously they're not going to be breaking bread with them and be BFFs every day, but he might not have maybe addressed her beforehand until he had those interactions with Delenn and stuff. So they just really made this episode.
Well, lucky for Mac, 3 is a sacred number in Minbari, and a spot recently opened up. To add to what Justin was saying about janitorial staff or whatever, I mean, it's totally true. There's a lot of jobs out there in the world where you don't necessarily know if that job, or pay attention to whether or not that job is being done well, but you sure as shit recognize when it's being done poorly. As long as IT is doing their job, no one's complaining. But when something goes wrong, then obviously they're the first ones you call and bitch at. And, those guys, they don't know what the hell they're doing, blah, blah, blah. So there's a lot of that in the world. and it's good to keep in mind that things are going correctly probably far more often than they're going bad. So before you call and scream at somebody, remember that. I also have to point out or jump in and just say that the thing about pushing the machine around the floor every day but not knowing why is it was the funniest part of this episode to me, and it's highly relatable in my field, especially having worked at a couple of big corporations at this point. It's like, well, you always have to do this. Why? Because it's in the SOP document.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because just do it. Like, okay.
Yeah, I also love the fact that Mack and Bo, even though we've only met them for about literally 30 minutes of a 45-minute episode, JMS put a lot of time into their characterizations. We've already talked about how Bo expects more of himself, wants to experience more, whereas in Mack is more of your normal schlub, which I like. I also love the fact that Mack's toolbox is a stool because he's like 5'5".
Yeah,
I love the fact that every time he goes somewhere, he's got to bring his stool. I love it. Nicole?
First of all, don't make fun of us short people. Another thing I really liked about them was their opinions of everyone. Like at the very beginning, you knew how they stand about Sheridan, what they thought of him. Like they like Sheridan. He's a good guy and all this stuff. And Sheridan and Delenn must really be in love. And then they were talking about Lockley, about how, oh, I heard she fought for Clark. So they had like opinions of everybody. It was just interesting to kind of like hear what they thought. It was very Office Spacey in many ways to me, like Mike said about the machine, and there was just so many moments that were so relatable. But like, yeah, it's like you hear office gossip of like, oh, I heard this one is this, and you form your own opinion about people you work with, right? And they definitely had their opinions, and I thought that was pretty funny to kind of hear their takes on everything.
Mike?
So just before we like change subjects, I kind of had just the closing thoughts on Mack and Bo and really this format of episode, and it's, to me, I really, like I said, I really like these episodes where you get a perspective on the universe from a different point of view, from a different character or whatever. You get it, you know, you've got this in obviously Trek Lower Decks and a few times in other series. To some degree, you get it in like some of your newer Star Wars content, like, you know, Bad Batch. It's just really fun when you get away from the leadership of the show. You follow like the crew of any given Star Trek series, and you're following the captain and the first officer. They're the best of the best. They're the hero characters. They're special, you know. And then you get an episode like this where you get a little bit of a sense that like there's more going on than just those 5 super important people at the top of the ladder. You know, there are people all the way down, and Mack and Bo are special in their own way and contribute to the overall success or failure of what's going on. And you find out, you know, basically like you follow Lower Decks, you got a bunch of ensigns, and you know, they turn out, you see that these are remarkable characters and that they have a path in front of them sometimes if they want it. And just really dig that. And I thought really putting this episode, you know, dating it back to 90, what episode was this, 97 at the point when this 98, I guess, when this one came out. Pretty fresh take, I would have to say.
One more thought I forgot to talk about.
You only get one.
Did anyone else find it hilarious that when they walked into the battle, they just randomly picked up a gun and shot one of the aliens? Like, I mean, everything that could have potentially happened to these two guys in this episode happened. And like, Zach's like, get the hell out of here. We'll cover you, you know, like I was dying laughing. I'm like, how funny. This gun ends up, he just picks it up, and they were just so unbothered by everything that was going on. They're like, oh, I guess we'll go to the shelter. Oh, I guess we'll do, like, they just gave no fucks, but it was like hilarious.
Well, I mean, they even point out in the episode, how many times do aliens try to blow up the station?
Right.
So this is not new.
Exactly. It was just funny.
The part of the scene that I like the most on that one is not when they pick up the gun, but when Zach tells them to get the hell out of there, and they do like the slowest goddamn army crawl I've ever seen. I really wish the director would have gone back to Zach and just have him look at him and go, what the fuck?
Well, and then Bo goes, next time we do this, we walk.
So should we discuss the line?
Yes.
If we have to.
So we've kind of alluded to it. I think we've talked a little bit about some of the contract issues and the he said, she said nature of the back and forth with the contract around Claudia coming back for season 5. And in this line, there was a discussion between Bo and Mack about what happened with Ivanova. And there was kind of this comment of, I heard it was a dispute over money. And so JMS claims that it was not a dig at Claudia. It was a dig at the people who are out there stirring up the rumor mills and trying to contribute to feuds. There have been more versions of this story for the last 30 years between who did what, who said what, how this all went down. But JMS 30 years ago said it was not a direct swipe at Claudia. But it did get thrown in, and it did get taken that way by a great number of people, including one here.
Yeah, there's no way that isn't a dig at Claudia. I'm sorry. And it's so unprofessional too. Like it's garbage. It is not showing any sort of loyalty, not having the perspective that Hollywood is a business. It is meant for people to want to get what they believe they're worth out of their work. And she didn't believe that she was getting what she was worth out of her work. And whatever happened that broke things down, the bottom line was she's not on season 5. And that comment is so spot on to the situation with Claudia. There's no way that it wasn't a dig at her. And I'm just not buying it. And it makes me wonder if he would have done that if one of the male actors had left the show under similar circumstances, because I kind of doubt it.
I'd actually say he would. I think JMS has proven multiple times that he can be a dick when he wants to be. I mean, even going back to the character with Keffer, who was the studio note.
Yeah.
You could tell he fucking hated Keffer from the start and had a countdown till he could kill him. The dude's, hell, go follow his Twitter if you doubt the guy's a dick, and he's equal opportunity dick. Look at the times he's told Scott off.
And he's proud of being a dick, which I love him for. But I'll let Justin go first. But I disagree with most of what you said, but I highly disagree with saying that he's misogynistic. That's just, I think that's out of line.
I'm asking the question, would he have done it if it had been a male actor?
100%.
Absolutely.
100%.
Okay.
Justin.
I completely see both arguments regarding this, and not being able to dig real deep into the backstories and everything like that yet. So my frame of reference is coming from a very much outsider point of view. To me, it felt like that, honestly, it was his attempt to address why she isn't on the show anymore from someone who wouldn't know. Like the lower decks guys wouldn't know exactly why Ivanova's not around anymore. So some of it, they're just speculating. Now this could be why, okay, it could have been money, but then they even mentioned, well, she could have been heartbroken from, Marcus, or she could have wanted a promotion, or it could have been about money. I think maybe it was just an attempt to address the situation, but definitely a foot and mouth moment. Like it was, I know what I meant to say, and I chose the wrong words type situation. So, but then again, from the limited knowledge I have of JMS, he's not accidental in a lot of things he says either. So, I mean, I can see both points. I just don't know any better.
Nicole.
Okay, so first off, let me start this by saying everyone knows I love Ivanova. I wish I could be her. Okay. And I also have a limited frame of reference. I only know what you guys tell us. I can't Google. I don't know all the battles. I don't know all the details. But for me, as someone who is literally watching episode by episode, I don't know JMS's backstory. I don't know everything. I took it as an example of how rumors and gossip get around the ship. For example, they also talked about the rumor of Lockley with the Clark people, and they talked about rumors several times throughout the episode. So I took it as it wasn't an insult to Claudia or Ivanova. It was more so them displaying how when you work in the lower echelon, rumors spread, and the one guy was like, don't listen to those rumors. You don't know, don't listen to them. It's all bullshit. You know what I mean? And I think that's exactly what I took from it. It was just showing you how people in the bottom don't necessarily know, and they just go off of rumors and water cooler talk and things like that. I mean, how many times have you worked somewhere that have a large amount of people and you heard a rumor and then it went into something else and something else, and it spreads like wildfire, right? And so that's what I took from it. I didn't think it was an attack on Claudia. I didn't think it was intentionally like a fuck you. I thought it was just one of the many examples throughout the episode on how rumors spread and how people in the lower echelon don't know anything. Nobody tells them anything, and they're just kind of going blind by what they hear and what they tell each other.
What's something that we've learned a lot about in the last 8 years? Beware of misinformation.
Kevin.
It is a laudable theme to want to have something to say about rumors. I agree. What I want to point out though is let's remember exactly what the line is. The line is Ivanova got mad because she wanted a promotion, wanted more money, and quit. That's what.
That's not the line.
It is
That's
the line.
I've got it pulled up. I actually pulled it up.
So do I.
Okay, here we go. You shouldn't listen to rumors, Bo. This place is full of them. Like when Ivanova left. Everywhere I turned, somebody had an opinion on that one. One guy said that she left because she was heartbroken. The other guy, Marcus. Then somebody else said she wanted a promotion. Quit because she wasn't getting paid enough money. So this is the whole point here is it's not like saying she quit. It's saying the rumor is this. The rumor is that. You got to take the whole context of the line.
Because she wasn't getting paid enough money.
Because that was one rumor. That's the whole point that Blake and Nicole have already made, is this is not JMS taking a dig at Ivanova. I'm sorry. This is JMS taking a dig at the Usenets. And remember what we talked about with the Ivanova piece. She said that no one contacted her. He said they did contact her. There is already some confusion there that hasn't been squared up in 30 years. Well, close to 30 years. So, but that's not the line. The line is a contextual of the entire thing. Did Claudia Christian leave Babylon 5 because she was heartbroken? But that's part of the line.
The needle is at the end of the line.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the needle.
JMS was definitely saying fuck you to someone. I just disagree with who you think he was saying fuck you to. I think it was to the Usenets and the people making all the rumors up on their own, absent the almost 30 years of narrative we've had since. Because there wasn't a lot on this out at the time. So people were just making shit up left and right as to why she left the show at the time on the Usenets, because it wasn't really coming out in the conventions at the time. I think actually the first in-depth conversation they truly had about it was the 25th anniversary panel at Phoenix Comic-Con. That's really the first time. Because that was kind of like Babylon 5 Uncensored at that one, because that's really the first time JMS opened up on why Michael O'Hare left the show, was a panel at the 25th Phoenix Comic-Con. They addressed this kind of in-depth for the first time at that Phoenix Comic-Con. So really, the bearing of the soul wasn't for another 25 years till we got to Phoenix Comic-Con. That's when all of this came out and got answered for the fans.
The other thing, too, is JMS did comment back then that he got raked over the coals by TNT and Warner Brothers because he promised that he would get everyone back for season 5, and he didn't. So he's got a lot of axes to grind. I don't think any of them are towards Claudia.
Okay, we will agree to disagree.
We didn't do that.
Yeah, when you guys agree, it's scary.
So in the spirit of JMS maybe taking a shot at the Usenets, hey, Internet, what do you guys think of it?
Good call.
I could make sure that I really get him pissed off and ask him the question on Twitter, because I'm sure he would love that.
Let's not do that.
Yeah, let's not piss JMS off.
Dear JMS, Kevin wants to know.
Yeah, tweet JMS. Kevin has a question.
Oh, wow.
By the way, listeners, please don't do that, because JMS hasn't blocked us yet, and I really don't want him to. So let's keep this between us. Although I know JMS does listen to some episodes, so if you'd like to answer the question, JMS, feel free.
I feel like it is too big of a coincidence to actually be a coincidence.
And if you are listening, JMS, I don't think you're misogynistic. So it's okay.
I didn't say he was. I asked the question.
Anything else on the episode, guys?
Can we talk about the 1950s sci-fi alien costuming?
Yeah, we did a little bit.
It felt like 1950s, 1960s Doctor Who.
Yeah, see, okay. Justin, I think you called it with the Imperial Guard, but I also thought the really bad Klingon helmets from that shitty Star Trek movie that's not a Star Trek movie, Into Darkness, because that was bad. Maybe it was even the first one, I don't know. But
I didn't think it was that bad.
Well, that's what I was actually going to start with, but Nicole, you have something first. Go for it.
I was going to say, I don't know anything about what the hell you guys are talking about, but I do know that I loved Jakar's jacket robe thing. The patchwork on that was cool as shit. Like when he walked away, when they were like, oh, I'll join you. I was like, okay, Jakar with that jacket, look at you. You're looking fly as hell.
From a production standpoint, my guess is that doing the costuming that way with the helmets, they must have had some way of churning out those helmets from something so that they could avoid doing, some sort of creature design on, tons and tons of.
We went to Spirit Halloween.
But
yeah, maybe.
I'm going to channel my inner Nicole, and I'm going to be positive. This is the biggest battle we have seen inside B5 ever. The only hint at an inside invasion we've ever really seen, except for like one guy running around.
Gropos.
Okay, kinda. But also War Without End. But in either case, with Gropos 2, you're right. I even forgot about that one. But it wasn't that huge. So, okay, you've got a large space battle outside, which, by the way, we used to love the fact that they actually spent some money on space battles. This is one of the bigger ones we've seen in a while. And we've got the invasion on the inside. So you get both the best of both worlds on that one. I think they had to do the helmets because, to everyone else's point, you have a budget. So if you're going to do alien makeup on 30, 40 guys, you're going to not be able to afford to do it. So this is a nice way to do it.
I just didn't think the helmet looked good, but
I mean, bright red was certainly a choice.
Yeah, the effects for the battle were really good. So I was disappointed in the outfits. I mean, I get it. There's a budget and all, but
we got the Cobra Bay again, which we haven't had in a long time. Was this the first time we got the new Star Furies in the Cobra Bay? Help me out.
Maybe.
I'm talking about the atmospheric ones with the look like fighters. Either way, it was cool.
I also liked how B5 almost bought it because of an overgrown fruit fry.
Okay, that one was a little rough. I will give you that one.
It looked like a Madagascar kissing cockroach.
Yeah.
Space battles, yay. One, I appreciate the fact that Scott's was positive on an episode. Two, I like how they're starting to portray Londo and Jakar as like the Jack Lemmon, Walter Matthau of Babylon 5. Like, you can tell that they're still, right now they're kind of, they want to hate each other, but they can't help but being friends to some degree. And, you know, they can say things to each other that no one else can say to one of them. And that's where I really like Jakar's truth bomb that he gave during the shelter. He's like, you know what? I grew up in this. This was my childhood. You know, I'm perfectly comfortable here. Why are you all antsy around? And the fact that he laid on what somebody said earlier, I don't know, you didn't grow up, you grew old. And also very poignant is he carries his shelter with him everywhere he goes. We've all heard the psychological talk and stuff like that about carrying your own prison within and everything like that. And, you know, being the one who holds you back from achieving your true greatness. But, you know, it was very poignant that Jakar just finally called him out on Londo's, you know, Londo being Londo and Londo's bullshit. And I've never done anything to the galaxy. And Jakar just looks at him. Okay, maybe a couple things, you know, but what is the galaxy going to be finally done with toying with me and all this stuff? So even though he fully acknowledges his mistakes, he still has those moments where he feels like he's the victim in a lot of situations. And Jakar's not afraid to be the one to finally call him out on stuff. And that's where it's like, you know, you can still tell that they both want to hate each other, but they can't. And I think that's becoming a very endearing quality to me with those two.
Justin, when I saw that scene, JMS was absolutely channeling the audience, including us. How many times do I have to fix something before you stop dogging on me? I've tried.
Yeah, it's crazy how Londo, everything is just about Londo. He's the victim. He, you know, what did I do? Why is this happening to me? And it's like, dude, come on. Like, have some perspective. But no, Londo doesn't have perspective.
But Nicole, you started out saying you wanted a Bo and Mack buddy comedy. I want a Jakar and Londo buddy comedy. I just want them like on a 5-year tour of the galaxy, and I just want to watch it so much.
I just want a movie version of Grumpy Old Men with Londo and Jakar. And
with Zathras running around too, some drawl.
Oh my God. Yeah,
Agreed.
I would.
I'd settle for the Odd Couple.
They are the Odd Couple. This is a better version of the Odd Couple.
Well, they have to live together. That'd be funny.
We just have to find somebody to play Burgess Meredith's character because he's the best part of those two movies. But
Zathras.
Anyway. Oh yeah, Zathras could be the dirty old man.
He is the dirty old man.
I like that. I like that idea a lot. JMS, make it happen.
By the way, and it's okay because he's definitely not listening. But
gone, unfortunately.
Well, I know that, but they could still do something with it.
This is how you get banned on Twitter, because if you offer up a story idea to JMS, he will ban you. I think it's okay because, well, obviously, Jakar Londo, one of them's gone now, as we just said. But yeah, it's kind of fun when somebody's like posted like, I had a great idea for B5 of a spinoff, and JMS is like, you're banned.
We'll just cut that part out, Scott. Cut that
No,
part
no,
out.
you're fine. You're fine. It's funny as hell watching it happen. I think we'll let this one go.
It's like, how many times can he say, "Do not tweet me story ideas"?
Well, he actually, I mean, there were story ideas, and we can talk about this another day, but there were story ideas that never saw film because somebody said it in the Usenets back in the day, because JMS is very, very cognizant that he could get sued. And there was one story, and we already talked about it. I can't remember which episode it was. Maybe it was Gropos, where he actually had the guy write a letter giving up the idea and notarized it so that he could use the idea because somebody posted it online after he had already written the script. So yeah, JMS doesn't play around with that too much. Anything else on the episode?
I think it'd be remiss to say that, we had basically 2 new main cast members just for this one episode. And I honestly think, as much as we've commented on many other guest actors and their acting qualities, these 2 guys were really good. We had except who was who here. Lawrence Lejean was Mac?
No, he was Bo.
No, he was Bo. Okay,
and
sorry.
Raymond O'Connor was Mac.
Yeah, they were both quality actors. Both brought something very special and very connectable to this episode. So props to those guys.
Mike, I'll add one point to that too, is it's not that they brought it just themselves, but the chemistry between those 2 was priceless.
For sure.
If you had no chemistry, I don't care how good of an actor you are, you're not going to pull that off.
Well, and Janet Greek, who directed this episode, worked with JMS to cast those 2 characters, and they brought in a lot of comedic actors to read for these 2 parts, and these were the 2 actors they thought had the best chemistry between the 2 of them. And there is kind of a Mutt and Jeff quality between the 2 of them for sure, with the size difference, which they found comically funny along with their acting ability. I don't know. I should watch this again, because some of it kind of fell flat for me, but at the same time, I probably wasn't giving it the kind of attention I should have.
Well, and Kevin, you're not alone. Go ahead, Blake.
That's it. And even going through the credits for these 2 actors, they've been in quite a bit of stuff, both comic and drama as well. I mean, most shows you think of going through the 80s and 90s, they have been on just about all of them between the 2 of them.
Yeah,
well, especially O'Connor with his voice and everything, he stands out.
Before, yeah.
Sadly, I gather he's no longer with us. Raymond O'Connor has passed away last year, but yeah, you're absolutely right. Both these guys have been in lots of stuff. You've seen them in lots of other things.
But Kevin, you're not alone in this on this episode. This episode was not taken, highly when it came out. On the P5 score from the Lurkers Guide, it is the 35th least rated episode. And it is something that I think I don't know if it was because it was a sudden change in the narrative for an episode. I don't know why people didn't really take to it, but most folks didn't. But for me, it's always been one that's a standout.
Well, and I can only speak from my experience watching this last night. I had a long weekend. I sat down to watch it late last night. I was pretty darn tired and kind of had a what do you want to call it, a preconceived notion of what I was walking into, because I remembered seeing it before, and despite the fact that I have said several times now that I like this type of episode where the alternate perspective, but my heart wasn't in it, and I sat down and I started watching it, and I found myself kind of drifting in and out, paying attention a little bit, but inevitably there were several times when that kind of happened, and I stopped myself and hit rewind. So I'm like, no, I need to go back and watch that scene again, because something at the end caught my attention and told me, like, there's more meat here than what I wanted to give it credit for. So it definitely is I think a much better episode than than you seem to think it is. And like that happened several times. I ended up probably taking an hour and a half to watch the whole thing. I went back and watched and rewatched several scenes, in particular the Londo and Jakar scene. So there's a lot of actually really good quality stuff.
Anything else on the episode, guys?
The last thing I'll say on the episode proper is to kind of cue Emily's disdain for everything that's John Sheridan. The look when Delenn greeted them by name in the hallway, and Delenn and Sheridan are walking away, and he gives her that look like, why are you talking to those 2 losers? He just gives her kind of a look about, what's all that about? So I just thought that was kind of funny.
Gotta get more Sheridan bashing in on the way out the door. I see how
I'm not
it
a
is.
Sheridan hater. I'm not a Sheridan hater. I just noticed it. I think Emily's rubbing off on us a little bit too much.
Oh, that's an evil laugh right there.
I do what I
My
can.
job is complete.
Excellent. Okay, let's go ahead and wind things up with that episode going into our questions and predictions. So our newbies have not watched past this episode. So we are going to ask them if they have any lingering questions or any predictions of what will come next. And let's go to Emily first. Questions and predictions.
I still want to know what's going on the planet below B5.
Epsilon?
Yeah.
3?
We haven't heard much about it. That all-powerful planet with advanced tech and all the Zathras.
Zathrai.
So, Emily, before you hopped on to the conversation today, we did talk about that there was a question on the internet back in the 90s about where the hell was Drawl in all of this? Couldn't Drawl have taken out this alien force? And JMS said that Drawl doesn't get involved in everything, and he probably would haven't gotten involved if the actual main force had come. But then I can't remember who said it, but somebody said he was probably too busy watching people boff, because that's what Drawl does.
That's a very real possibility. And then my other question, which I had already asked earlier, is about Byron and if they were part of some psych-core testing.
Any predictions?
Sheridan will continue to be in episodes and continue to annoy me.
I think we can all agree without going beyond the rim that I can guarantee you Sheridan will return, and I can guarantee you will still hate
And
him.
hopefully they will not put Lita back in a headband. I figured out what my problem was with it. In case anyone cares, which you absolutely don't, and I know this. It's because they have her in like a business type power suit, which is supposed to convey some like level of authority or, respect. And then they put a headband on her, making her look like a little kid. And it irritates me.
I don't like the shot of her in the credit sequence either. She looks like kind of almost scary.
Yeah, the headband needs to go. So hopefully that will not return. So I will be less irritated by something.
Nicole, what are your questions and predictions?
I guess my only questions are we going to see Bo and Mack again, or was this a one-time deal? And then prediction-wise, I mean, if this is the third alien attack that they potentially had, how many more are coming? I guess that's more of a question than a prediction. I feel like it's going to become a pattern that people are going to want to take over Babylon 5. So that would be a prediction, I guess.
Justin, questions, predictions?
Well, the first thing I learned today is that the second most person on Emily's shit list is the costume designer for Babylon 5. But in terms of questions, Mike popped the bubble on me about one of them. Is I was really hoping we'd get to see more of Mack and Bo, but it doesn't sound like we do.
I thought that was fair. That was probably fair game to not gaslight Justin about.
Yeah, I've been gaslit enough on this day.
Or you just, screwed up and want to cover it up.
No, you're not going to see Mack and Bo. All I said was Mack. You're not going to see him in the show anymore.
They're angels, Justin. They're angels.
They're angels. I heard the flapping of wings.
In a way.
No, that was fapping, Justin. You heard an entirely different.
Okay, then keep going, Justin. No. Just keep going, Justin. Keep going.
Yeah, I'm going.
Stay on the rails, buddy. Stay on the rails.
I didn't hear a word Blake said.
Who's he railing? I'm sorry.
No, I'm just kidding. Anywho, I guess the other question I have is more of a technical issue. This doesn't have anything to do with Babylon 5 in general, just I guess television in per se. Is why I guess I've never really looked into it or really understood why different directors direct different episodes. Like, why is it not a consistent director over the entire series? And I don't know if anybody has any other television knowledge that they can impart on me about that, but that was just something that I've been wondering lately.
Believe it or not, I have a nerd answer because I'm a nerd. So usually with television, there is a rotation. So you have a certain amount of directors that you have assigned to the show, and then they will be like, okay, every 5th episode, Janet does, or every 6th episode, David Eagle does. And they have it set up that way to where, because it takes a lot longer to make a show than obviously just filming it. They film it in a week, but you've got pre-production, and as Kevin pointed out earlier, casting, you've got post-production and everything else. So there's about probably 4 or 5 weeks at the minimum that these directors are locked down for one episode. So you cycle them through like that. And then occasionally,
because there's more than one episode being worked on at a time.
Correct, because and in JMS calls this out a lot, and when you read his book, this was alluded to in this episode too. It was killing him because he would write a script for one episode while another episode was being casted, while another episode was in pre-production, while another episode was filming, while another episode was in post-production. So he was like having to deal with 5-6 episodes at a time.
Gotcha.
So that's how they do it.
That makes sense. Yeah. Well, thank you for that educational experience. This is not only fun, but education.
I try.
And then I guess my only prediction, and I apologize if I'm repeating myself from the last couple weeks, but I don't honestly remember what I said back then. I'm getting really uneasy feeling about this Byron guy. I think he's up to some shady shit. So I don't know what it is. I think he's probably going to end up. I think I asked a question a couple weeks ago if him and Lita were responsible for the telepath conflict or whatever. And I have a funny feeling he's going to be the main baddie in that. This is the total Magneto vibes that I'm getting from him now about the superior, being born into a world that hates you, and the superiority complex he seems to be displaying is giving me bad juju, man. Bad juju. That is all. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Thank you. That will end it for this episode of View from the Gallery. We'll be back next week. And as I mentioned, the View from the Gallery was the 35th worst episode based on Lurker Scored. Congratulations, guys. Next week's episode is the 21st worst episode based on Lurker Score. And that is Learning Curve. So we'll be back here next week to talk about Learning Curve. Please be sure to like, subscribe, follow, check out all the social media links down below. And again, if you can, please do leave us a review. It absolutely helps grow the show. And a final thank you to all our Patreon supporters as well, too, for all of your help. And if you want to join us over on our Discord, all you got to do is join our Patreon at any level, and you'll get access to that as well. So until next week, when we talk Learning Curve, I've been Scott, and with me has been
Blake,
Mike,
Justin,
Nicole,
Rita,
and Kevin.
Alrighty.
GG's.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Gray 17, a Babylon 5 podcast. You can find all the places to listen to and watch this podcast at anchor.fm/Gray17podcast or youtube.com at Gray17podcast. We want to hear from you, so join the conversation at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, or Patreon. Be sure to subscribe and leave a review where you are listening to or watching this podcast. Gray 17 is not affiliated with, and the podcast has not been prepared, approved, or licensed by Warner Brothers or any other owners of the Babylon 5 copyright. All clips included in this podcast are the intellectual property of the respective copyright holders. They are included here for purpose of review, and no infringement is intended. The opening and closing themes are available from Falling Matter on YouTube.
And what's out there?
The rim,
And beyond that?
the truth.
Welcome back to Beyond the Rim. Again, this is a spoiler section, so if you have not watched past A View from the Gallery or just don't remember what happens next, this is where you should jump off. If not, we'll go ahead and dive into the 4 questions and 1 prediction from our newbies. And we'll start with what is going on with Epsilon 3?
Do we get any more Epsilon 3 in the series?
Well, JMS even addressed this because he didn't want to rely on Drawl as like the always there thing. And he also pointed out Drawl is not omnipotently aware of everything. He's not God. So Drawl may not have even known what was going on or fully been dialed into it with what was going on above B5. And I will say I appreciate that they don't pull Draw in as the be-all, end-all, cure-all to all of B5's problems, because they did it once when the one species showed up and said that they had claimed Epsilon 3, and Drawl helped whoop their ass, or the Great Machine did. I don't think Drawl was in the machine at that point. But that's about the only time. They never really stepped in the rest of the time and had Drawl be the fix to B5's problems, and I appreciate that personally.
Well, chronologically, we will have some interactions with Epsilon 3 on the road home, because we deal with Zathras trying to help Sheridan while he's hopping through time. And then the next time is Sleeping in Light, because it gets referenced there as well. But that's about it for Epsilon 3. Was Byron a test subject of Psycor or anyone else?
Well, funny thing about that, there is a history with him and Bester, which we're going to find out about. And that Byron's a fairly powerful on the P score But as far as a test subject, I don't know that they address that.
Yeah, no. I think he's just a pretty strong telepath. He's a P12, which means he's more elevated than a Psychop, which would explain a lot that happens in this episode. Or actually, a Psychop is a P12, aren't they? No, are Psychops P10s? I can't remember now.
No, Psychops are P12s.
According to the good old wiki, he was a P12 and was trained by the Corps, and he graduated to be a Psychop. And he was a part of Black Omega Squadron back in the day, which goes to that Bester relations as well, too. So that explains a lot about why Byron, too, has the additional quote-unquote powers that many telepaths don't, or that we don't see, is because he is a very strong telepath. But yeah, there was nothing in here about him being tested on. He just came in like a Psychop would at a higher level.
Well, that's interesting, because that answered a question I had about, again, getting into the technicals that really weren't the point of the episode. There's the question of, did he hijack a Star Fury's pilot's mind in real time, or was he projecting an image? And I was going to point out that he can't project an image if he doesn't know what the inside of a Star Fury looks like. But apparently he does.
Yeah, because he was a pilot.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I was thinking the same thing, that he definitely took over somebody's mind. But now that I just read, because I need reminded that he was with Black Omega, maybe he wasn't. Maybe he was just helping him out.
Now it's a little muddier about what he actually did there. So
I didn't get much into the debate on that one, but I honestly don't think it was as intrusive as some folks thought. I think he did get consent, and I think he was just trying to help the guy out.
Well, and again, it's missing the forest for the trees on that one. It's not the point of the scene. The point of the scene was to give Bo a meaningful experience. I think that would either call him out for bullshit jingoistic behavior, or be something real that he would remember and actually honestly like keep with him. So
and Kevin brought this up too, and we'll get to this question in just a moment, but I wonder if that changes Bo's direction in life. I wonder if he takes that and decides to go somewhere else aside from maintenance. Maybe he goes back and learns how to pilot. Who knows?
I don't remember if there's any other instances where Byron does anything like this, later on in the season, but it really seemed intrusive to me. But I get the other side of it. It just, having the ability to essentially take over what you're perceiving at some point is a scary thought, that someone could possibly, in a fictitious world, have that power. And it's not lost on me that it's supposed to be, uncomfortable.
Well, and that was, when my takeaway from it after watching the episode. I mean, I think the net result was that Bo liked it or appreciated it. I don't think that's the right word to use, but you get what I'm saying.
I think appreciate was the right one there.
Okay. I walked away from the episode pondering the question of, what was Byron's intent? Was it helpful or hurtful?
Yeah, I don't know. I definitely saw it as, he was just legitimately trying. I think it was also kind of stemming from what they had just saw, that the guys were passing around the helmet, and whatever you think about that scene or not, they were passing around the helmet and sharing that experience. And then Bo mentions that he would like to have an experience. So Byron gave him basically what Byron and his people just had. So for a moment, I see it as him letting Bo into the circle and saying, we'll share something with you too. So I have feelings about Byron, and we will talk about them when we get to them. But right now, I think he's zealous, but I don't think he has any kind of mischievous ideas.
Well, but Robin Atkin Downes played that particular scene kind of mischievous in a way. Really? He almost seemed like he was eager to turn what Bo wanted on its face, and kind of that, be careful what you wish for, you might get it type of thing. That's just how I read it.
Yeah, art is very subjective, because I saw it completely different. I think he asked for consent from Bo 3 times. Are you sure you want to see this? Are you sure?
Again, he asked for consent about something, but I don't know. Yeah, I'm a little bit more with Kevin on this one, but at the end of the day, frankly, maybe Byron was like, well, I'm going to give you this experience, and I don't know whether it's going to be helpful or hurtful. I'm just going to do it.
It's what you want. I don't care
here's a test.
Yeah, it's you asked for the puppy. Here's the puppy. Which Nicole and Justin both asked, will Bo and Mac return? Mike, will he return?
Nope.
Okay, just checking.
One and done, just like most of the series.
Again,
I was giving you the stink eye when you started talking. I'm like, God damn it.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, we could have tried to lead them on, but at this point, I don't think there's
no.
You're just trampling on all Justin's dreams about character development. That's all you're doing.
I mean, before I had even said it directly, we'd already talked about how this was like a weird one-off episode. So hopefully they could have connected the dots anyhow.
When I say this, I fully recognize that Sleeping in Light has already been filmed at this point. But it would have been so nice to, like, when JMS flips the switch on the space station, that we see Bo and Mac just like using their little tool on the floor right before. That would have been fun.
No. It's when Sheridan reaches the end of the universe and Road Home, and it's Bo and Mac instead of Jakar.
Now I like this. I like it. Okay, and then finally, for questions, how many alien attacks are still coming?
I don't think we get any more random alien of the week attacks, at least till we get to Call to Arms with the drop.
Yeah, I think unless you're counting the Centauri War that's about to happen, no more attacks for a while.
Well, even that doesn't, I don't think, get directly to B5.
It doesn't, no, it doesn't. But yeah, even the Drak, though, are kind of hinted at. We've seen the Drak before, just not a lot of them. But yeah. No, this is, and Blake, you called it out. We don't really do this much. So, and then finally, predictions. Byron is up to some shady shit.
Well, no shit, Sherlock.
Here's the thing. I can't believe
he's kind of putting it on a billboard, isn't he?
No, I don't think he is. This is the thing. I swear to God, I didn't come into season 5 thinking I was going to defend Byron. I have not seen him do one thing yet that has told me that he has any mal plans. He has offered to help to save his people. He has stayed exactly where he was told to stay in Brown Sector. He is staying out of stuff. When Garibaldi and Lita came to him and said that we need your help, he offered his help, although, again, he didn't like to, but he did. And he did mention that, it will help with transactionary stuff later on. And in this episode, there was nothing in here, again, if you view it like I do, that was anything malice. So I don't think he's done anything shady yet. Now he will.
Well, no, I would argue he's doing it now. We just don't find out about it till later.
Well, and that's the key. I mean, if he's doing stuff behind the scenes, sure, I completely hear you on that. But what I'm just saying to the billboard comment, I don't think he's done anything on screen that has been shady. I think all of us, and I came into season 5 like this, all of us are biasing our views on Byron based on the fact that we know how Byron ends.
Yeah, I grant you that. I was literally about to say the same thing. It's hard to see it from a fresh lens, which is why our show, the way it's constructed, is so fun, because we get to hear what the newbies have to say about it without spoiling anything for them, hopefully. But I have to disagree. I think, he's shown some real hostility in the Byron way towards mundanes, normies, and in this episode, I think I think it was intrusive what he did, but I don't want to rehash that. I think there have been a few things. I think there's signs of it. I think that it's clear that he is at least an antagonist. I wouldn't call him a villain. I would call him an antagonist. And I think it's clear that JMS is setting him up for that type of thing, even at this point in the season. But I grant you that it is very open for interpretation.
Anything else for this episode, guys? I'm so looking forward to Learning Curve. Although I haven't watched it in 5 years. Maybe I'll be wrong again. I don't think I will be, though. Well, until next week when we talk about Learning Curve, I've been Scott, and with me has been
Blake,
Mike,
and Kevin.
It doesn't taste like chicken.